Hi guys, it's me, Miss Mary, coming in for a landing. I was thinking earlier today, and I was thinking about um things that look at Miss Mary's gray hair. Things that I'm grateful for that I never quit fighting for. I'm going to tell you about 5 things that I'm grateful that I never quit fighting for. Number 1 is my relationship with God. I'm so grateful that I never quit. No matter how bad things got, I always believe that there's a God, and I always believe in a higher power than myself. And I always believe that God was a seeing, knowing, all God. And I never gave up on seeking Him, seeking His directions, seeking His not submissive will, but His perfect will. And I'm in the midst of doing that now, even as we speak. I don't want His submissive will, but I want His perfect will for my life. I'm so glad I never gave up on my relationship with God, and that I've cultivated that relationship with Him, that I know Him. I'm so glad that I never ever just wanted to, as they curse God and die. Never wanted to. I mean, there have been some decisions in my life that I've made, and the Spirit was telling me not to do it. God told me not, and I did it anyway. I did. You know, the Bible says a warning comes before a fall. I had a warning, but I did it anyway. And I paid dearly for it, trust me. So I never charge God for the mistakes that I made or for the things that I used and exercised my free will. I'm going to say it like that. For the things that I exercised my free will to go and do that was not in the will of God that I do. And I'm going to leave it at that because Miss Mary can get into a long, long story about that. So I'm grateful for that, you know. And even when he told me to go right and I went left, that he didn't take his hands off of me, you know. And one of those things was when I got married the first time. God told me not to do it, but I did it. So just gonna drop that little nugget on you. That's one of those things and one of those times, you know. So I'm glad and I'm grateful that I never quit or gave up on my relationship with God. The other thing is myself. I'm so grateful that I never gave up on myself. Now, I've had a time when I was like depressed. And it's not hard for me to say that, but I think when you're in it, you don't recognize it as depression. You just think that you're unhappy, but you don't realize that you're depressed. So I've been depressed before. I always viewed it as unhappy. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. But it's bigger than not being happy, you know. So I'm grateful that I never gave up on myself. And to the point that when I felt myself going in a bad direction, that I knew who to call on for help. And that was God, to help me keep my mind and to help me not fall into this deep depression. I'm glad. I'm grateful that I never gave up on myself. You know, um, I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I've never given up on my kids either. Even though we have some differences and um, there's some relationship issues, I've never given up on any of them. I've never given up on wanting to have a relationship with them, wanting to be their mother, wanting to be in their lives. I've never given up on it. Now, things have transpired where maybe uh, it might not be reciprocated, but I've never given up. Never given up on being a mother. Never given up on wanting to raise my kids and wanting to be in their lives. I'm grateful for that. We're just talking about things that I'm grateful for. And I hope in this process that you will look at some things and evaluate yourself and be grateful for. You know what I mean? And so I'm grateful that I have hard times yet. As I've told you on here, I went through hard times, been homeless before, and then well, you're homeless anytime you don't have a home. You know, when you got your kids and stuff and you have to stay with somebody else, that's homeless. I wasn't in a box, but that's homeless when you don't have a home, and you have to stay with someone else until you get a home or find a home or whatever. But never given up on my kids. And so I'm grateful that I stayed in the fight for that. I'm grateful that I've never given up on my marriage to the second husband and given up on my husband. Because sometimes when we're in a relationship, marriage, it could be whatever it is, kids, any type of relationship, things are going to come and they're going to get hard and they're going to get difficult. And it's so easy. It's so easy to just throw in the towel. But at the same time, too, you need to know when you need to throw in the towel, when you don't need to throw in the towel. Oh, he didn't give me anything for my birthday. I'm leaving. No. You got to know when this situation is not working and you two are hurting each other and you're not helping each other. The thing I always tell people that marriage is a beautiful thing, but it can be challenging, because you go to bed with that person and you wake up with that person, you go to bed with the person, you wake up with the person. And in the midst of you changing, they're changing. So all these changes are going on in this relationship. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you start out, he's black and you're blue. And all of a sudden now you're black and he's blue. And all of a sudden now you're red and he's green. It's just constantly changing. The colors are constantly changing. And in the midst of those changes, sometimes you create this rainbow and it's beautiful. And then on the other side of that, then he changes and he's black and you're green and he's blue and you're yellow. But then every now and then that rainbow comes together and oh, it's so beautiful. We're so beautiful together. I don't know if that was a good analogy, but I'm just saying people do change and you have to be willing to allow them to change and grow with them. That's the one thing I think that if I had to say about my husband and I relationship, and the one thing I tell my kids constantly that I'm so proud of their daddy is for he never ever stops me from being me. It's kind of like what my daughter-in-law said to me. She's never had to dim her light with my son. I feel the same way about my husband. I've never had to dim my light. I've never had to code switch. I can always be me. That's Mary. That's Mary. Or Marielle, as he calls me sometimes. But anyway, I'm glad and grateful that I never gave up on my marriage. and that we have been able to transition with the times and changes and stuff. Because we're both getting older and going through a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm grateful for that. And then I'm grateful that I never gave up on my future. I know I said on myself, but when I was talking about self, I was talking more or less like just not giving in to the down days and the depressed days, but on my future. That I trusted that things were going to work out for me. Didn't know how, didn't know when, but I just believed. I believed that things were going to get better for me, even in my darkest hours or the darkest times, you know. And the one thing that I'm so grateful for is when I finally got to the point that I did not care what people think. I wish I had arrived at that a lot earlier. I really do. But it didn't happen until probably in my late 40s, early 50s. But I'm glad that it did happen. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest hurdles in our lives. In your 20s and 30s and 40s, we'll say we don't care, but we really do care. If you can get past not caring and make good, conscious decisions for your life. I'm not talking about hurting anybody, stepping on anybody, abusing anybody. I don't care. I'm talking about you doing what works for you as far as, excuse me, being productive, making wise decisions for yourself. I heard this quote today and it really stuck with me. If you think the price of winning is too high, wait until you get the bill of regret. God, isn't that powerful? Can I say it again to you? If you think that the price of winning is too high, wait until you get the bill of regret. It reminds me of that other quote that I said to you guys about do something today that your future self will thank you for. Move towards something positive in your future. This Miss Mary just coming in for a landing. Just giving food for thought. Have a great day.